Greed is one of the seven deadly sins. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning. He's been going through a pretty nasty divorce, and it all stems around money. And it really got me thinking, he was telling me that all their arguments, like pretty much every day, was something about money. And it's really shocking to me considering he's a pretty successful dude. He has a really successful company. He gets VA benefits, he's a veteran. And his wife at the time, or I think they're still technically married, she got royalties from her family's oil company. But it was a constant argument, I guess, about money. And it just makes me feel so fortunate that that's not one of my wife's like driving goals in life was to be rich. You know, obviously money has been an argument or been a stress in our lives and stuff. There's times where we're worried about paying the bills or getting groceries or whatever. But like being rich has never been one of her goals or one of my goals. It was me personally. It's more about having fun. Most men are just big kids. We want to enjoy our hobbies and buy toys basically. And the older we get, just the more expensive our toys get. Some guys are into sports, they buy sports memorabilia. Some guys are into cars, they like restoring old Mustangs or old, Chevelles. Some guys like me, I get in all kinds of silly stuff. I just recently, I'm into archery really big. I'm into fishing. I've been into fishing my whole life. And, some of these fishing lures I've been buying lately, they're expensive, a couple $100s, and they're all custom airbrushed and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should look into getting an airbrush and learning how to paint. It's a silly hobby, I'm 41. I don't need to get into airbrushing. But it's relatively inexpensive. It could be a cool hobby for me to sit down at the workbench and airbrush a couple of, fishing lures and I don't know, just keep myself entertained, and he was saying that like those kinds of dreams that he would have, she just immediately would shoot him down. And I remember, and I'm sure I would say was going to get into airbrushing. He probably, had dreams about buying a big piece of property with horses. I don't know. But, I remember when I was younger, everyone probably had these friends that as soon as they got a girlfriend, they quit hanging out as much. It was always whatever the girlfriend wanted to do. And I was like that with my previous girlfriends before meeting my wife. And I'm like, man, I really lost connection with my friends, and I really stopped doing all the fun things that I used to do with my buddies as much. And I swore to myself that the next girlfriend I ever get, I'm not gonna allow her or allow myself to do that again. I'm not gonna stop going fishing or stop going dirt bike riding. At the time, I was playing paintball. Stop playing paintball as much as I was, just because I have a girlfriend and responsibilities or whatever. And we were going back and forth this morning, and I'm like, man, he makes me feel really lucky. He even said, he's like, you got a unicorn. You need to make sure you do everything you can to keep her around. And he's right. It really makes me reflect on the relationship my wife and I have. That her biggest driver and motivation and goal in life was to have kids, was to have a family. Granted, that wasn't something I saw myself doing, but when you love someone, you make these sacrifices, right? She never wanted a big house. She wanted a moderate house with a white picket fence, you know. She wanted a couple of kids. She as long as the bills are paid and there's the kids are taken care of, you know, the food's on the table, we're able to afford our kids sports stuff. That's all she really cares about. And it just makes me really fortunate that that is the person that I found, and I didn't find someone whose biggest motivation was money. Like, it's so gross. You know, it's so like him telling me some of the stories and stuff like that. I'm like, man, that I just couldn't imagine being married to someone like that. I've never been that way. I'm not super greedy like that. You know, my sin has been gluttony. You know, I've been an over consumer of alcohol. I was a drug addict. You know, after getting sober, that recognizing that in myself and just realizing like the vanity, you know, living in Southern California and how everyone was always trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know. She would get a new car, then she would want a new car. You know, she got boobs and she wanted to go get boobs. You know, I bought a new dirt bike, then he went and got a new. It was always that. And it drove me insane. Just always trying to keep up with the Joneses. And granted, I didn't have to, but you kind of feel like you have to. You know, I think that's a lot of what social media does too, is it's brainwashing people that we need things. You know, we need stuff. We need status symbols. And you know, to me now, uh, granted, I still like nice things. You know, I mean, I still buy an expensive, you know, bow. I have expensive fishing equipment, but it's not my main driver anymore like it used to be. Like, it's fun to get cool stuff, but spending time with the kids, you know, making sure my son gets a new baseball glove for this season, uh, you know, he's in All Stars now, you know, paying for All Stars, you know, buying, you know, the baby new toys. And, you know, we went out on the lake this weekend and hung out for the day on the lake. Like, these are the things that make me happy. And you know, I feel for my buddy, man. That sucks, that because he's such a cool dude. He's such a cool dude. And granted, obviously she knows, his ex knows a different side of him than I know, but I don't know, man. She's gonna lay in bed one day and really reflect on what was driving her, you know, this greed for wealth, this greed for things, for stuff. And it's gonna sink in one day. One day she's gonna realize, you know, I had a good dude. He was working his ass off on his company. One day he's gonna sell that company. I guarantee you that company is gonna grow to a size where he's gonna sell it for a hefty penny, and he's gonna kick back. And I just sent him some videos of the lake we were on this weekend. I'm like, man, I'm about to move down there. There's a bunch of people living on the lake, a lot of really nice homes, a lot of like moderate, you know, we even went by a trailer park. I'm like, how the heck are these people affording to live on this lake? And you know, one day he's gonna be able to sell it. He was like, man, maybe I should buy a house there. One day, you know, he's gonna sell this company and he's gonna cash out. And she could have been a part of it all had she just not been this person. And I don't know if it's just been ingrained in her. It sounds like her family owns an oil company or some crap. Maybe this is how her mom was. Maybe this is how her dad was. Maybe this was their biggest motivations in life, was wealth. But she also grew up pretty religious, and she should know that greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. And if she doesn't correct course, it's going to come back to bite her in the ass. It always does. It always comes back around to bite you in the ass. So I don't know, man. I'm super fortunate that that I found a woman who's whose biggest motivations in life was, family and just a modest living. And like I said, the money stresses are still there. It's part of life, but I'm very grateful for what I have. And you don't really reflect on these things until you have a conversation with somebody who's going through the exact opposite, and you're like, man, I do got it pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I think that's all I got to say about this. Don't be greedy. Don't men out there, you're looking for a woman and her biggest motivation is to be rich and drive a Mercedes and get boob implants. Probably not a winner. We need to value family and stuff like that more than monetary things, for sure.